Hey historians! Welcome to Time Machine Historia. Where are you watching from today? And what time is it in your part of the world? Drop it in the comments below, we love seeing where our stories are reaching. Now, settle in. Let your imagination wander. Because tonight, we journey into the timeless sands, the secrets, and the shadows of ancient Egypt. In the beginning, there was water. Not rivers, not oceans, but an infinite expanse, none, the primeval sea. Dark, deep, silent. From its stillness rose a single light, a pulse, a breath. And from that breath, Ra emerged. He rose like a blazing fire above the horizon, blazing against the black. The first god, the eternal sun. With each word he spoke, the world unfolded: sky, earth, waters, air. And from his tears, mankind was born. Egypt began not in the soil, but in the stars. Born of divine order, Ma'at, truth, balance, harmony. A land not conquered, but sung into being. But even Ra cast shadows. And where there is light, there waits the dark. Isis and Osiris, queen and king, lovers, divine rulers of the golden time. Their reign was peace, fertility, growth. But Set, the brother of Osiris, burned with envy. With cunning and cruelty, he murdered Osiris, dismembered him, and scattered him across the Nile. But love is relentless. Isis searched. Isis wept. She found all but one piece. And still, she rebuilt him. Osiris rose again, but no longer among the living. He became lord of the underworld. And their son, Horus, the falcon-headed god, would one day avenge his father. From this divine tale came the pharaohs, men who were gods. Gods who ruled men. Earthly avatars between sky and Duat, the shadowy realm of the dead. The Nile flowed like a silver thread through the land. It fed the soil, carved the path of cities, temples, and tombs. Each inundation was a rebirth. Each failure, a warning. From its banks, wonders rose, temples where light danced on sacred walls. Obelisks that pierced the heavens. And pyramids, not just tombs, but star maps. Stairways for the soul. Khufu, in his dream, saw a monument to eternity. The Great Pyramid was born, aligned with Orion. Constructed with precision beyond time, a legacy in limestone. Even today, its secrets elude us. Its silence speaks louder than any answer. In the courtyards of Thebes and Memphis, citizens moved with purpose and prayer. Scribes inked scrolls with words that bound eternity. Farmers sowed grain, timing harvest with the stars. Fishermen sang songs to the river gods. The hum of civilization was not chaos, but order. The calendar followed the Nile. 3 seasons, Akhet, Peret, Shimu. Flood, plant, harvest. Children learned not only to speak, but to remember. To chant the names of gods. To know the journey of the soul. Death was not an end, but a beginning. The tomb was not a grave, but a portal. The body preserved. The heart guarded. The soul weighed. Priests in white robes performed rituals beneath moonlight. Incantations called forth the breath of life. The dead were fed, their ka sustained. And in the hush of their chambers, they waited. The book of the dead was no book. It was a map. A guide through darkness. A promise that even in death, there is a path. The soul would stand before Osiris. Its heart, weighed on a scale, balanced against the feather of Ma'at. Too heavy, and the beast Amit would devour it. Too light, and it passed into the field of reeds. A heaven of calm. Of family. Of joy. Egyptians prepared for this journey their entire lives. Not with fear, but with reverence. Because in Egypt, eternity was not abstract. It was planned. Ramesses the Great carved his name deeper than time. His temples watched the sun. His battles echoed in stone. Kadesh, the city of war. Where he faced the Hittites. The chariots thundered like gods. But peace, not conquest, followed. Ramesses signed the first peace treaty ever recorded. His statues proclaimed not just strength, but legacy. He outlived many sons. His bones rested in the Valley of Kings among whispers. There were others. Akhenaten, the rebel. He shattered the gods. He raised Aten, the sun disk, as sole divine force. The temples turned cold. The people murmured. He built Amarna, a city for one god. He changed the face of art. Elongated heads. Graceful limbs. Realism over reverence. But time rejected his vision. After his death, the old gods returned. His name erased. His city swallowed by dust. And Cleopatra, the last pharaoh, a queen of charm and mind. She spoke many tongues, understood the old magic. She faced Rome not with swords, but with wit. Julius. Then Antony. She gambled her kingdom on love. And when all was lost, she chose the asp. The serpent's kiss. A death fit for a goddess. With her, the line of pharaohs ended. Egypt bowed to Caesar. The old ways faded. But Egypt did not die. It changed shape. It lingered in memory. Temples became ruins. Scrolls became legend. But the myth remained. In the 19th century, the world rediscovered Egypt. Champollion unlocked a Rosetta Stone. The voices of hieroglyphs returned. In 1922, Carter broke the seal. And Tutankhamun rose again. The world stared into gold. Today, Egypt speaks from glass cases and tour guides. But its heart still beats beneath sand. In every obelisk, every symbol, every name spoken in awe. So remember this: civilizations fall. Gods fade. But legacy, true legacy, whispers forever. When you next walk through a museum, or stand before a pyramid, or gaze at the stars, listen closely. Egypt is not a memory. She is a song, a myth, a truth carved in stone. And she waits. In shadow. In light. In us. If you felt the breath of history in this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the wonder. Tell us, what secret of Egypt would you most long to uncover? Until next time, keep listening to the ruins. They still speak.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever thought about places that aren't just a holiday spot, but more like a journey back through time itself? Places where you can almost feel the ancient stories in the air, where every single stone seems to have a secret.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we are plunging headfirst into one of the big ones, ancient Egypt. It's a civilization just wrapped in mystique, full of these grand monuments and really profound beliefs that have just fascinated people for thousands of years.
Absolutely. It's got such a pull.
And we're diving deep into some really interesting source material today, excerpts from Echoes of Eternity, Ancient Egypt's Enduring Legacy. It just paints this incredible picture.
And our mission here for this deep dive is really to pull out the core insights, the kind of enduring truths from these sources.
Right.
We want to help you understand not just what happened back then, but why ancient Egypt still resonates so powerfully today. I mean, it influences our art, architecture, even how we think about spirituality.
That's true.
And what's really fascinating about this particular dive, and it really jumps out from the sources, is this constant focus on the cyclical nature of their beliefs, their profound connection to cosmic order. It feels like everything fits together.
A divine blueprint, almost.
Exactly. Like their whole civilization was built on this divine blueprint where every single thing, the sunrise and the Nile flooding it, was all part of this intricate repeating pattern.
So let's go way, way back to the very beginning and forget, land masses or geology for a second.
Okay.
The sources tell us Egypt's creation didn't start with solid ground. It started with something, well, much bigger and more mysterious. None.
The primordial waters.
Exactly. This infinite, dark, deep, completely silent primeval sea. Can you imagine that? Not some big bang, but just infinite quiet potential.
It's a very different starting point, isn't it?
So what comes out of that kind of stillness? What does that tell us about their first beliefs?
Well, that's what's so profound. From that absolute stillness, right from the heart of none, The source describes the emergence of Ra, the sun god.
The sun god. But it wasn't like a sudden explosion of light. It's described more subtly, like a single light or a pulse, even a breath stirring in that cosmic ocean.
Right.
And this gentle start gives birth to the first god, Ra, the eternal sun. He's not just a god, he's the active force of creation. The texts really emphasize that his spoken words unfolded the world.
So he speaks it into being?
Literally, he speaks and the sky stretches out, the earth forms, the waters separate, the air fills the space. It's creation by divine utterance, like a cosmic song.
Not built, but spoken.
Exactly. And what's really incredible, setting up his unbreakable link right from the start, is that mankind itself, we were born from Ra's tears.
From his tears.
From his tears. Think about that. Humanity is literally made from the divine essence, wept into existence. Our connection to the gods isn't just spiritual, it's, well, familial, woven right in.
That's a really powerful image, that closeness between divine and human, right from moment one. So Egypt was, as the source puts it so beautifully, born not in the soil, but in the stars.
Sung into being. Yeah, sung into being by divine order. And this order wasn't just an idea, was it? It was a core principle. Ma.
Ma, crucial.
Truth, balance, harmony. It sounds like the foundation for absolutely everything, even there from the beginning, from Ra's shadows.
Yes, it implies that even within creation, within that primordial potential, there was this inherent design, a universal truth. Ma isn't just a set of rules, it's the fabric holding everything together, keeping it all in balance.
So if Ma was this fundamental truth, did they think it could ever fail? Could the cosmic engine just stop?
Yeah.
And what part did ordinary people play in keeping it going?
That's a really sharp question because the key insight here is that the Egyptians believed Ma'at, this balance, wasn't automatic. It actually depended on human actions.
Really?
Absolutely. Ma'at was everything, ensuring the sun rises, the Nile floods properly, justice is done. The source even says even Ra cast shadows, suggesting creation itself had the potential for imbalance, for chaos to return.
So chaos was always kind of lurking.
Kind of. Which made actively maintaining Ma'at not just a job for the pharaoh, but, well, a responsibility for every single Egyptian, every choice, every fair dealing, every offering. It all counted. It was seen as literally helping keep the universe running smoothly.
So a personal cosmic responsibility for everyone.
Exactly. If Ma'at faltered, chaos would creep back in droughts, enemies disaster. So keeping things in harmony wasn't just nice, it was essential for cosmic survival. It really tied their daily lives into this grand cosmic drama.
Okay, so this cosmic order then leads into what sounds like a golden age, ruled by this divine couple, Isis and Osiris.
Yes, the sources describe their reign as a time of peace, fertility, growth. It sounds idyllic, really. A perfect reflection of Ma'at working on Earth.
Right, and here's where it gets really interesting. This perfect balance doesn't last, does it? It gets shattered, creating this foundational myth for all the pharaohs who came later.
Indeed it does. The peace is broken by Set, Osiris's own brother.
And
Burning envy, the source says. This wasn't just family drama, it was a cosmic betrayal. Set, just consumed by jealousy over Osiris's popular and successful rule, does something horrific.
he murders him.
Murders him, yes. But then he dismembers the body into 14 pieces and scatters them all over Egypt up and down the Nile. It was incredibly cruel.
14 pieces. Wow, that's not just killing him, that's trying to obliterate him.
Exactly. It was an attempt to utterly destroy his essence, prevent any chance of an afterlife, and plunge the world back into chaos. A total disruption of Ma'at. The land itself starts to reflect this grief, becoming less fertile.
But then the story shifts, doesn't it? From this horror to, wow, incredible love and determination.
Isis. Despite the horror, the impossible odds, she doesn't give up. The source says she searched, Isis wept. Just imagine the effort, the sorrow.
Painstakingly searching.
Painstakingly finding all but one piece of his body. And then, using her powerful magic, she miraculously rebuilds him.
Even with a piece missing. What does that act signify? It feels like more than just devotion. It's like putting the world back together.
It signifies the triumph of order, love, and sheer perseverance over chaos and destruction. Isis's act is one of ultimate restoration. But, crucially, Osiris doesn't fully return to the land of the living.
Oh.
He rises again, but transformed. He becomes lord of the underworld, the ruler of the Duat, that shadowy realm of the dead.
So he turns death into something ordered, governed.
Precisely. Death is no longer a terrifying void, but a structured place, a new beginning with its own divine judge. And this myth also paves the way for their son, Horus,
The falcon-headed god.
the falcon-headed god, destined to avenge his father and take back the throne on Earth. And this whole story is absolutely fundamental because it connects directly to the pharaohs.
How so?
They were seen as men who were gods, gods who ruled men. Earthly avatars linking the sky, the earth, and the duat. The living pharaoh was Horus, descended from the gods, always fighting chaos, upholding Mahat on Earth, keeping the cycles going.
So their rule wasn't just political power.
Oh, no. It was profoundly spiritual. They were the indispensable bridge between the divine and the mortal realms, essential for Egypt's very existence.
But this whole divine cosmic order, it wasn't just up in the heavens or in these big myths. It was grounded in something incredibly real, something that literally made Egypt possible. The Nile River.
The lifeblood. Absolutely.
The source calls it a silver thread that literally defined the land. It fed the soil, it carved the path for cities, temples, even the tombs for that eternal journey. It wasn't just a river. It felt like a living thing.
It really did.
And it had this dual nature, right? Each inundation was a rebirth, bringing all that fertile silt. But each failure, a warning. Famine, disorder.
That rhythm was everything. It wasn't just a river, it was like a living blueprint for eternity itself. Its constant cycle of flood, growth, and harvest didn't just dictate farming.
It got into their heads.
Deeply, it imprinted on their psychology. It taught them that endings weren't final, that there was always a return, a rebirth. A fundamental optimism, really, born from the landscape.
Wow, so the Nile itself taught them about the afterlife. No way.
In a way, yes. Its rhythm was the heartbeat of Egypt, a cosmic regulator. Their entire calendar followed the Nile's cycle, defining the 3 seasons. Akhet, the flood.
July to October-ish.
Roughly, yes. When the river swelled, dropped all that rich black soil. Then Peret, the growing season. November to February, waters recede, time to plant.
And finally Shemu.
Shemu, the harvest, March to June. Gather it all in. This natural cycle wasn't just something they observed, it was woven into the fabric of their civilization. Order, predictability, renewal.
Always coming back around.
Always, just like the sun god Ra crossing the sky each day and returning. It gave them this deep comfort in the predictability of life and even death. The river was the framework for everything, timekeeping, spirituality, everything.
And you can really picture it, can't you? That daily rhythm, that constant renewal, how it must have felt in cities like Thebes or Memphis. The source paints this picture where the hum of civilization was not chaos, but order. Not just frantic noise, but purposeful.
A structured hum.
Yeah. You'd see scribes carefully inking scrolls, maybe noting the flood levels, farmers timing their planting by the stars, totally in sync with earth and sky, fishermen singing to the river gods, asking for a good catch.
It's a beautiful image.
Feels so holistic. Nature, belief, society, all woven together. Every little action seems part of a bigger ordered plan.
Absolutely. That hum was ordered because their whole worldview revolved around maintaining Ma'at. Every job, every task, farming, temple rituals, it all contributed to that cosmic balance.
So the scribe, the farmer, the fisherman, they weren't just doing jobs.
They were threads in this vast tapestry reflecting the divine order. Even city layouts often mirrored the cosmos, aligned to stars or directions. It wasn't just adapting to the environment, they integrated it right into their spiritual core. Life as a continuous flow, just like the Nile.
Okay, so from that life-giving Nile, you get these just unbelievable structures rising up, changing the landscape forever. We're talking temples where light itself seems sacred, dancing on the walls.
Illuminating the gods' images, inviting them in.
Right. And obelisks just piercing the sky, like giant stone prayers capturing the sun's energy. These clearly weren't just buildings, were they?
Oh, definitely not. They were massive statements of belief, carved in stone, echoing that cosmic order we talked about, permanent and tangible.
And then, of course, the pyramids.
They're pyramids. And the source makes a crucial point. They were not just tombs, but star maps. Stairways for the soul.
Stairways for the soul. I love that. Not just a box for a body.
Exactly. They were incredibly sophisticated cosmological instruments. Think about Khufu's Great Pyramid at Giza.
Mind-boggling scale.
And precision. The sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal points and those internal passages. Many scholars believe they align with stars like Orion, Osiris's resting place, and Sirius, linked to Isis.
So built with precision beyond time, as the source says.
It was meant as a symbolic launch ramp for the pharaoh's soul, guiding it up to the stars to join the gods to continue its cosmic work. The sheer effort involved millions of tons of stone, tens of thousands of workers. It's staggering.
The organization alone must have been incredible.
Unbelievable. And the mystery lingers. Even today, its secrets elude us. Its silence speaks louder than any answer. It points to this deep belief in connecting earth and sky, using monumental effort to literally bridge dimensions.
That idea of a stairway for the soul really changes how you see them. They become active spiritual tools, not just static monuments.
Precisely.
It shows a civilization just laser-focused on the journey beyond. Building with cosmic intent, not just building big. The generations of effort must have shaped the whole society.
It absolutely must have. Those alignments weren't guesswork. They show this deep understanding of the heavens and their role in the divine order. The pyramids were launch pads for the pharaoh's transformation into a divine being, ensuring his eternal journey and, by extension, Egypt's stability.
Because the pharaoh was the link.
The vital link. And managing that decades-long project, feeding, housing, organizing everyone, points to incredible social cohesion, planning, and a powerful shared spiritual goal. The fact we still can't figure out exactly how they did some things suggests a level of knowledge, maybe sacred geometry, that went way beyond just construction. Hashtag 3.2. A society aligned with spiritual purpose.
And this spiritual focus wasn't just for the elite, right? Not just for pharaohs and priests building pyramids.
No, not at all.
The source really emphasizes how it filtered down into everyday life, right from childhood. It says, children learn not only to speak, but to remember, to chant the names of gods, to know the journey of the soul. That sounds like more than just Sunday school. It sounds like fundamental spiritual training, part of being Egyptian.
That's a really vital point. That learning was societal preparation for the afterlife. Life wasn't seen as just the short burst ending in nothing. It was a continuous journey, just the first stage of something much bigger.
A prayer.
Exactly. So from a young age, they learned about the gods, not just the big ones, but protective ones like Taweret for pregnancy or Bes for the home. They learned the rituals, the path the soul takes after death. And they learned the rules of honesty, justice, not just as good behavior, but as essential for their eternal trip.
So every choice mattered, even small ones.
Every choice, because it all contributed to your final judgment. A craftsman carving a hieroglyph, a farmer planting seeds. In a way, they were all preparing for the afterlife with every action. It created this profound sense of responsibility, this constant focus on living right, not just for now, but for eternity.
So their whole education, their culture was geared towards preparing for what comes next.
Pretty much. It shaped their values, their ethics, their identity around this concept of eternity.
So it wasn't just about learning facts, but about achieving spiritual readiness.
Spiritual readiness, that's a good way to put it. Daily interactions, ethics, community values, all informed by this continuous journey where your actions here directly impacted your existence later. It made them inherently forward-looking, but towards eternity.
Not just the next harvest.
Exactly. If life is just one stage, you focus on performing well for the next stage. It blurred the lines between life and death into this seamless continuum. Honoring gods, respecting elders, being these weren't just civic duties, they were spiritual acts.
What could keep your soul going?
To ensure your life force, your spiritual double, and your personality, the part that could travel will be sustained and could navigate the underworld, the duat.
Baha.
So every part of life, raising kids, harvesting grain, had this deeper spiritual layer, aligning the whole society towards that ultimate goal, eternal life. Even the humblest person felt connected to the cosmic order, knowing their role in upholding Mat and earning their spot in the field of reeds. That's why they poured so much effort into monuments and preservation, because the physical and spiritual were tied together. Life was just chapter one.
Which brings us to maybe the most distinct, most fascinating part of ancient Egypt, their whole take on death.
It's certainly unique.
The source puts it so bluntly. Death was not an end, but a beginning. In the tomb, not a grave, but a portal. That just completely flips how we usually think about mortality, doesn't it?
Fundamentally, it redefines everything.
So how does that perspective change how we understand their whole civilization? Not just burial stuff, but how they lived.
Well, because death was a transition, not an ending, they poured immense resources and planning into preparing for it. The goal was to ensure the person could successfully navigate the duat, the underworld, which was seen as a perilous journey, and reach the field of reeds, eternal life.
So the famous mummification.
Essential, a process taking maybe 70 days because the Ba, the soul personality, needed that physical anchor to return to. Interestingly, they often discarded the brain.
Really?
Yeah, but the heart, considered the seat of intellect, emotion, memory that was carefully guarded, left inside, because that was what got weighed in the afterlife.
Ah, okay. The weighing of the heart.
Exactly. And the source gives this vivid image. Priests in white robes performed rituals beneath moonlight, chanting ancient spells for protection. Incantations called forth the breath of life, magic to reanimate the spiritual essence.
And they fed the dead.
Yes. The dead were fed, their ka sustained through regular offerings of food and drink in the tomb. Keeps that life force going. And in the hush of their chambers, they waited.
Waited, not feared.
Waited. This meticulous focus meant life was lived with the afterlife always in mind. Every day was a step towards this big journey. It was a civilization built on the idea that what came after was even more important than what happened now.
So the rituals weren't just symbolic gestures, they were practical steps.
Functional, exactly. Preservations, spells, offerings, all designed to actively help the transition and sustain the person's essence for the voyage. The tomb becomes less a grave and more a launch pad, a well-stocked base camp for an epic trip.
And sustaining the ka, the life force, needing nourishment even after death. That really makes you think about how they saw human identity keeping the physical intact.
Precisely. The ka was that vital spark, born with you, continuing after death. It needed that sustenance, hence the regular offering, sometimes for generations. The Ba, the personality part, could travel between worlds, visiting the tomb, or even the living.
So the preserved body allowed the ka and ba to reunite.
That was the belief. A well-preserved body, a tomb with all the supplies and magic texts, allowed the spiritual parts to function, to interact with gods in the living world. That image of the dead waiting in the hush of their chambers isn't meant to be creepy, it's peaceful. They're just paused, fully equipped, ready for the next stage, confident.
And to help them on this complex journey through the Duat with all its dangers, they had what we call the Book of the Dead.
The famous scrolls.
But the source clarifies it was no book, it was a map, a guide through darkness, a promise that even in death there is a path. So what did this map actually do for the soul? How did it help them get where they needed to go?
Well, this map was basically a collection of spells, prayers, instructions, usually written on papyrus scrolls, sometimes on coffins or tomb walls.
Customized almost.
Very much so. Tailored to help the deceased overcome the specific dangers and tests of the Duat. Spells to fight off demons, open gates, and critically provide the right things to say at the judgment.
Ah, the judgment before Osiris.
The pivotal moment. Standing before Osiris, Lord of the underworld. And your heart, the seat of your morality and memory, is weighed on a scale against the feather of Mat, symbol of truth, balance, order.
The ultimate test.
The ultimate moral reckoning. You'd recite spells from the Book of the Dead, the negative confession, declaring all the bad things you hadn't done. I have not stolen, I have not caused pain, I have not lied.
And the outcomes?
Stark. Heart too heavy with thin. Weighed down by wrongdoing. The beast Amit gets you.
Amit? The part crocodile, part lion, part hippo thing?
That's the one. Terrifying. She devours your heart, and that's it. Second death. Total annihilation of the soul.
Yikes. But if your heart was light?
If it balanced against Mat's feather, too light here means just right. Cure, you passed. You were granted passage into the field of reeds.
Their heaven.
Their version of heaven. A paradise. Calm, plenty of food and drink, reunited with family, eternal joy, like the best parts of life on earth, but with no suffering.
That image, the heart on the scale, Amit lurking.
Yeah.
It really hammers home the moral weight of their lives.
It absolutely does.
And it makes sense why Egyptians prepared for this journey their entire lives, not with fear, but with reverence. Because as the source says, eternity was not abstract, it was planned.
Exactly. It wasn't just wishful thinking. It was a practical, lifelong project, deeply integrated. Their monuments, art, rituals, all pieces of this grand preparation, aiming for that favorable outcome in the final cosmic audit.
So the reverence came from knowing the stakes were incredibly high.
Immensely high. It was the central organizing principle. Every ethical choice, every ritual, every monument was a step towards ensuring your heart would be light enough. They really believed they could actively participate in their own eternal destiny.
And the Book of the Dead gave them the cheat codes.
Sort of. It gave the specific spells and knowledge to pass obstacles, answer questions correctly, get through gates in the Duat. It showed that divine favor was earned through both a good life and knowing the right things. It wasn't just for pharaohs either. Anyone who could afford it commissioned their own copy, making it very personal.
So if their journey was eternal, who are the guides on Earth? Let's pivot to the individuals believed to embody that divine rule, the pharaohs.
The god kings.
And few names echo like Ramesses the Great. The source says his name was carved deeper than time. His massive temples are still there, watching the sun, his battles carved in stone. He left a huge mark.
Ramesses II, yeah.
That's
He's
right.
one of the giants. Really embodied that pharaonic strength and continuity. He reigned for, 66 years. Astonishingly long.
Wow, 66 years.
One of the longest ever. His time was marked by huge building projects and also aggressive military campaigns to boost Egypt's power. The Battle of Kadesh against the Hittites is probably the most famous.
Right, the chariot battle.
The source says chariots thundered like gods, epic scale. Ramesses claimed a huge personal victory, but what's really fascinating and maybe surprising given his warrior image is the eventual outcome. It wasn't total conquest, it was peace. Ramesses signed the first peace treaty ever recorded with the Hittites.
The first peace treaty.
Ever.
Yep.
The first one we have a record of, around 1259 BCE. And it wasn't just a ceasefire, it was a detailed treaty setting up stability, mutual defense between these two superpowers. We have copies from both sides.
That's incredible. So he wasn't just about war.
No, his legacy is strength, yes, but also this groundbreaking diplomacy. And he lived so long, outliving many of his own sons, ensuring this incredible continuity. His monuments, like Abu Simbel, weren't just ego trips. They reinforced his divine status, him upholding Maat, his body resting in the Valley of Kings among whispers. It shows that reverence lasted.
So a warrior, but also a statesman who saw the value of stability through peace. That adds a whole other dimension to it.
Absolutely. It wasn't war for war's sake. It was about securing Egypt, ensuring stability, which ultimately served Maat and brought prosperity. That long reign cemented Egypt's sense of continuity. The whispers mean his influence, his spirit, felt potent even after death, the ideal eternal ruler.
Okay, so from Ramesses, the great builder and stabilizer, we swing completely the other way to Akhenaten, the rebel.
Ah, the heretic.
The source says he shattered the gods and raised Aten, the sun disk, as the sole divine force. I mean, wow, after millennia of polytheism, it's radical. You wonder if he ever stood in his new city, Amarna, and thought, maybe this is going to be a tough sell back home.
Probably not. He seemed pretty convinced. But yes, his reign was utterly unprecedented, a seismic shift. For a civilization so rooted in its pantheon, a god for everything, his decree to worship only Aten, this abstract sun disk with hands.
Just Aten, no one else.
Just Aten. It was a total rejection of that whole complex web of gods that underpinned everything. From creation to the afterlife, he even had other gods' names, especially Amun-Ra, the big state god, erased from monuments.
How did people react?
The impact was huge. The temples turned cold, the source says. Those vibrant centers of community and economy just stopped. The people murmured. Widespread confusion, unease, resistance. It shook their understanding of cosmic order, their place in it, their path to eternity.
And he built a whole new capital city just for Aten, Amarna.
Akhetaten, horizon of the Eton, yeah. Built from scratch out in the desert, away from the old power centers like Thebes and the traditional priests. A complete physical and ideological break.
And the art changed too, didn't it? That weird, elongated style.
The Amarna style, yes, unmistakable. Instead of those perfect, stiff, idealized figures, suddenly you get realism, movement, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, their daughters, shown in these intimate natural poses, but often with strange features, long heads, skinny limbs, pot bellies.
Realism over reverence, the source called it.
Exactly. It reflected his new theology, Aken's direct, life-giving presence in nature, no intermediaries needed. It was a deliberate dismantling of the old art rules alongside the old religion, a total visual rebranding.
It didn't stick, did it? After he died, everything snapped back.
Pretty much immediately. The old gods rushed back in, especially Amun. Akhenaten's name was systematically erased, the ultimate condemnation. His city was abandoned, eventually swallowed by the desert sands.
So what does that tell us about the power of tradition?
It tells us that even a pharaoh, the most powerful person, couldn't just overturn millennia of deeply ingrained belief and culture overnight. Tradition, especially religious tradition, has immense staying power.
Like an anchor.
A very strong anchor. The swift reversal shows a societal rejection. His revolution was seen as disrupting Ma'at, a dangerous imbalance. People craved a return to the stability, the familiarity of the old ways. Even a god king couldn't permanently break that cosmic order.
And then we reach the end of the line. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh.
The legendary Cleopatra VII.
Described as a queen of charm and mind who spoke many tongues and, intriguingly, understood the old magic. She feels like the final act, doesn't she? A desperate fight to hold on to what Egypt had been for so long.
She absolutely represents that twilight moment. She inherited a kingdom already heavily influenced by Rome, but unlike many of her Greek Ptolemaic family before her, she embraced Egyptian culture.
She learned the language.
Reportedly the only one of her dynasty who did. That, plus appearing in public as the goddess Isis reborn. That's the old magic the source mentions. Not spells, but a brilliant understanding of Egyptian tradition to legitimize her rule and rally her people against Rome.
So she faced Rome. How? Not with armies.
Not primarily. Egypt couldn't match Rome's legions. She faced them with wit, as the source says. Using her intellect, her political skill, her famous charisma to forge alliances. Pure strategic genius.
First with Julius Caesar.
Securing her throne, having their son Caesarion.
Exactly. Then later, famously, with Mark Antony. Trying to use Roman power against other Romans to keep Egypt independent, maybe even expand.
But it all leads to this incredibly dramatic gamble. She gambled her kingdom on love.
It's often put that way.
Which results in that tragic, powerful ending. When it's all lost, she chooses the asp. The serpent's kiss, a death fit for a goddess. It sounds like a final act of defiance. It was precisely that. Her relationships with Caesar and Antony were personal, yes, but fundamentally political. Calculated risks to protect Egypt. The gamble on love was her alliance with Antony, which pitted them against Octavian, the future Augustus, in that final war. Actium, then the siege of Alexandria. When defeat was certain and she faced being dragged through Rome in Octavian's triumph, unthinkable humiliation. She chose suicide.
And the asp, the snake, that was symbolic?
Highly symbolic. The cobra, the uraeus on the pharaoh's crown, was linked to royalty, divinity, the goddess Wadjet. Choosing that death was a way to control her own end, assert her divine status one last time, deny Rome its ultimate prize. A carefully staged, powerful exit.
And with her, the source concludes, the line of pharaohs ended. Egypt bowed to Caesar. The old ways faded. Just the end of an era. An incredible 3,000-year run.
It was. With her death in 30 BC, that unbroken line of divine kingship stopped. Egypt became a Roman province, ruled directly by the emperor, the breadbasket for Rome. Egyptian culture, religion, administration continued in ways, but political independence, gone. The distinct pharaonic system. Finished. The old ways didn't vanish instantly, but they definitely faded under Roman rule, absorbed into the wider Greco-Roman world, the end of a sovereign empire.
But even with that end, the Roman conquest, our source makes this powerful point. But Egypt did not die. It simply changed shape.
Exactly. A transformation, not an extinction.
It lingered in memory. Temples became ruins, scrolls became legends, unread for centuries. But the myth remained. How does a civilization do that? Change shape instead of just vanishing. What does that mean?
It means the cultural and spiritual foundations were just so incredibly strong they kept exerting influence even when dormant. Think of it like a river going underground but still flowing. The temples, even in ruins, were undeniable evidence of past glory. The scrolls, unreadable for ages, still held that potential for rediscovery.
Seeds waiting to sprout.
Perfectly put. And the myth, the core stories of creation, gods, afterlife, Mot, they were so compelling they just stuck in human consciousness, even if distorted over time. Egypt wasn't an active empire anymore, but its essence persisted as this potent cultural memory, a source of mystery and awe. It transformed from a living state to a latent, deeply influential idea, just waiting for its moment to reawaken. An enduring enigma. And that reawakening started dramatically in the 19th century. A series of discoveries literally brought Egypt's forgotten voice back. The absolute key was Champollion cracking the code of the Rosetta Stone.
Found by Napoleon's troops, right?
Yes, in 1799. Same text in 3 scripts. Hieroglyphic, Demotic, a later Egyptian script, and crucially, ancient Greek, which scholars could read. For centuries, hieroglyphs were just pretty pictures. No one knew what they meant.
So the stone was the key.
The key that unlocked everything. Champollion's breakthrough was monumental. As the source says, it allowed the voices of hieroglyphs to return. Suddenly, millennia of history, religion, daily life, Pharaoh's own words accessible again, like a sleeping giant starting to speak its own story.
And then, 1922. The moment that just exploded into popular culture.
Yeah.
Howard Carter finding Tutankhamun's tomb.
King Tut.
Peering into that untouched tomb.
Yeah.
A time capsule. The world stared into gold. The sheer richness, the preservation masks, sarcophagi, furniture, chariots, even food, and intact pharaoh's burial. It just lit a fire under global fascination.
It really did. It wasn't just digging something up. It was opening a direct window onto that planned eternity we talked about. Tangible proof of their beliefs, their preparations. It captured the imagination like nothing else.
More than any dusty text could.
Absolutely. It was an archaeological marvel, but also a cultural phenomenon that went viral 1920s style. Because it was mostly unlooted, it gave this unprecedented glimpse into royal funerary practices. The gold, the art, the grave goods, all shouting about the journey to the afterlife. That discovery, combined with now being able to read the hieroglyphs, created this perfect storm of interest. Egyptology went from academic niche to global obsession, cementing Egypt's place as one of history's most captivating civilizations. The voices of hieroglyphs now had this dazzling, tangible context.
So fast forward to today. Egypt's not just speaking from ancient text or behind museum glass. Yes, it speaks from glass cases and tour guides, but the source argues its heart still beats beneath sand. It's not just a history lesson, it's a living legacy still shaping us.
That's right. Its legacy is woven into our world in so many ways, obvious and subtle. In every obelisk, you see them in Paris, London, New York, right? Testaments to their engineering. Every symbol, the Ankh for life, the Eye of Horus for protection, still recognized, still used in art, jewelry. Every name spoken in awe, Ra, Isis, Cleopatra. Their stories are still told, reinterpreted. They've become archetypes.
More than just history.
Much more. The source says, civilizations fall, gods fade. But legacy, true legacy, whispers forever. Egypt is the prime example. It physically declined, but its ideas, its art, its sheer ambition continue to inspire and provoke thought across millennia. Concepts of cosmic order, the afterlife, divine kingship, they influenced so much that came after, including Western culture. Religion, architecture, our idea of monumentality.
And it circles back to that beautiful idea of Egypt being born in the stars, sung into being by divine order. It's like that original song you never really stopped playing. The empire fell, things crumbled, but the underlying tune, the spirit, it just keeps going. The source ends with that lovely line. Egypt is not a memory. She is a song, a myth, a truth carved in stone, a truth we still feel.
It's a powerful testament, isn't it? To that deep human fascination with meaning, purpose, eternity. They tried to carve their beliefs into stone meant to last forever, and in a way they absolutely succeeded. Their song, their myth, their truth resonates because they tackled the big universal questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What happens next? The pyramids' precision, the depth of their beliefs, that cyclical worldview. These aren't just facts. They're insights that still speak to us, offering a different way to look at our own lives, our own mortality, our place in the cosmos. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. What an incredible journey today, diving deep into ancient Egypt's enduring legacy. We went from those primordial waters of Nun, the birth of Ra, through the saga of Isis and Osiris shaping divine rule, felt the rhythm of the Nile shaping their whole psychology, stood before the pyramids, those amazing stairways for the soul. We explored their view of death as a new beginning, guided by the Book of the Dead, met giants like Ramesses the Great, the rebel Akhenaten, and the unforgettable Cleopatra. So after all that, what does this mean for you listening now in your own world?
It means that these echoes of eternity, they're closer than you might think. The wisdom of the ancients still offers perspective. So maybe the next time you're in a museum and you see some Egyptian artifact, a little statue, a scrap of papyrus, don't just see it as old.
Right.
Or if you ever get the chance to stand before a pyramid, just feel that scale, that ambition, that belief. Or even just look up at the stars, like they did, wondering about your place in it all. Listen closely. Egypt is not a memory. She is a song. A myth, a truth carved in stone, and she waits. In shadow, in light, in us. She invites you to think about those big questions, existence, legacy, cosmic order that still whisper down through the ages, reminding us that even now we're connected to that ancient, profound human search for meaning and eternity.